Hello, and welcome back to Shade Tree Philosophy. I'm your host, Dave, and we're going to continue today in our study of the Gospel of Mark, King James Version. We just finished up chapter 13, which is a very interesting chapter that talks, Jesus is talking about things that, in a sense, he's prophesying about things. He's telling about truths that will happen in the future. And so that ended with kind of a bookend, uh, repeating kind of the scenario about the people that were in the vineyard, the people that were being unjust and treating the servants of the owner of the vineyard when they came in to collect their part of the spoils or whatever profits. And at the end, Jesus goes on and he tells us, to watch and to be the good servant of his vineyard. I don't know if he actually called it a vineyard, but he calls it as one who's going off on a trip and he's leaving servants behind to do his work. So watch for his return. And then here we are. Now it's 2 days later, and it's still the week of the Passover, and so Jesus is just outside of Jerusalem, and in this case, he's in Bethany. So we're going to start there in verse 1 of chapter 14. After 2 days was the feast of the Passover and the unleavened bread, and the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by craft and put him to death. So, these guys already have murder in their heart. They've already decided that Jesus deserves death, and I don't know how they're going to do it because they can't put people to death. It's not lawful under Roman pax, Roman peace. You just can't put someone to death without clearing it through the Romans first. Verse 2. But they said, not on the feast days, lest there be an uproar of the people. So here we are, it is the feast day, and it's the Passover. And the Passover harkens back to when the Jews were under bondage to Egypt, and the Passover was the last plague brought upon the land of Egypt. And so they killed the Passover lamb, and they put the lamb's blood on their doorposts above their doorways, painted it with the blood of the lamb, and the angel of death passed over that house and did not take the firstborn of that house out. And that's what the curse was, to take the firstborn of every household. So all of Egypt, including the animals, lost their firstborns, except for the animals of Egypt, of Israel, the people of Israel, and their livestock. They were not taken, the firstborn. So it's that feast, and so there's people from, that's the major feast of the year too. That's actually when they do the atoning sacrifice of the lamb in the temple, and the sins are rolled forward or whatever that did. Some people think it rolled it forward to the next year because the sacrifice of lambs and goats and bulls did not take care of the problem of sin. And so this is where all that ties into the sacrifice of Jesus, him being the spotless lamb who was sacrificed for us, so that we are able to enter into the holiest of holy places and have a spiritual union with the Lord on any given day, not just once a year. And so that's the beauty of the sacrifice of Jesus and about his passion, and that's where we're going here in chapter 14 and forward, is his completion of that good work. So if I'm sniffing a little, I apologize. I have had a cold. All right, so anyway, verse 3 in chapter 14, and being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. Now they mentioned that guy, and Simon the leper, there's no other real indication of who Simon the leper is. Obviously it was a leper that Jesus had healed, though, because it would make him unclean to be with a leper even in this circumstances, I don't know. I don't know how this worked so that Jesus could be in the presence of a leper and then be able to go into the temple. But here is Simon the leper who is healed. As he sat at meat, so he's at Simon the leper as he sat at meat. And there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious. And she broke the box and poured it on his head. Now, that was a very expensive. We'll just stop there. That's just a very. This lady comes in. It doesn't say who she is here. It says that she came in and she broke this alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious. Now, some people believe that this was worth a year's wages. Actually, I think it's said further on here that is the case. Very expensive. Imagine your year's wages. So this is just an expensive thing that was brought in by this person who obviously thought it was very worthy of Jesus to give. So she's bringing this, probably, I've even heard it said that this was like the family's, not just hers possibly, but like her whole family, this was a gift that they all, were able to get into. Although she said she broke the box, so I'm assuming it was sealed. And she poured it on his head. Now, I don't know how much oil this was, but it says it poured it on his head, so it was enough to at least anoint his head. And there were some that had indignation within themselves. So they were irritated at what was done and said, "Why was this waste of the ointment made?" Now they thought it was a waste. They thought that what she had just done was an offense. It was a waste to them. Oh my gosh, there should have been so much more planning in what to do with that precious, precious thing. Obviously it was precious enough to cause them to be indignant. It was really something. And they were reacting in a way that brought shock, that the woman had done this. Poured it on Jesus, on the head of Jesus. Verse 5, for it might have been sold for more than 300 pence and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. So they were not happy with her. They were not happy with her, and they're like, oh my gosh, and this is the reason. Because they're saying it could have been given to the poor. Now, who knows what their reasons were. But they were in shock that this good gift given by this good person to the Lord to anoint him upon his head. Give him the greatest gift that she could have given him that was available to her. And Jesus says in verse 6, and Jesus said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. I can imagine the room got quiet at that point. They're like, I'm sure they were murmuring, right? And they murmured against her. What was that said? And they murmured against her. So murmur. They were all just talking amongst themselves, and there was a lot of speak going on around the room. And Jesus said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She have wrought a good work on me. For ye have the poor with you always, and wheresoever ye may be. Let me read that again. For ye have the poor with you always, and whensoever ye will, ye may do them good. But me you have not always. And think about that. I think I've had a dream one time that I met Jesus. And it was in his time. It wasn't in my time, but I just happened to dream this. And I can remember it was such a shock, and I was so thrilled to have met him that it woke me up, and I was just upset. And I've never had that dream or anything like it. But it moved me, And And these guys, I guess they're just used to being around him, and I think, gosh, what would I have done if I had been in the room there? I know not if I hadn't been hanging with him, I just popped in and be like, oh, it's Jesus. Yes, let's throw the oil on them. But they'd grown accustomed to Jesus being around. And they probably didn't understand fully what was going on. Of course, he's still on his way to Jerusalem, and there he's going to be mistreated and he's going to be killed. And this is the beginning of that discourse. So he says, she has done a good work for me. And he said, you always have the poor. You can always do good for them. In verse 8, she had done what she could, which means everything she could, really, her most prized position. She has come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Again, Jesus is referring to why he's there. This is the culmination of his ministry. This is his time in Jerusalem. This is the Passover. And this is when he will be captured and treated and mistreated and crucified. Verily I say unto you, verse 9, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. What a wonderful thing, for that woman to hear after they all, just murmured against her. And Jesus saying, hey, you know what? No one's going to forget this. This is a big deal, and it will always be spoken. And the gospel, by the way, the good news, is, of course, the teachings of Jesus. But this act of kindness will be taught with his gospel. A gospel was actually pronounced before usually a military leader came in, speaking of all his accolades, proclaiming all the wonderful things that this conqueror had done. And so if you think of it in that sense, Jesus' accolades will be spoken of, but so also will this woman's good work, and to honor her. And Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went unto the chief priests to betray him unto them. So, does that mean that this is what caused him to do it? His indignation about this good work of this woman? This was the last straw, or was it just something brought Judas Iscariot to go and seek out the chief priests? The chief priests, the guys that wanted to kill him. And Judas Iscariot makes it easy for him. He goes and he looks for them. And when they heard it, they were glad. This is verse 11. And they promised to give him money. And he sought how he might conveniently betray him. So he's trying to think of the right time and the right place to get it done. Verse 12. And the first day of the unleavened bread, when they had killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, where wilt thou that we go and prepare that thou mayest eat the Passover? So I guess this isn't the Passover yet. They're getting ready for the Passover. So it's the first day of unleavened bread. I don't know how many days that Passover went on. It'd have to be something I look at. But anyway, so here's the first day. And they decided where we're going to go. And he sent forth 2 of his disciples, and he saith unto them, go ye into the city. I'm assuming into Jerusalem. I don't know if he's in Bethany or where he's at here. And you shall meet a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. Now, a guy with a pitcher of water was kind of unusual because that was considered women's work, so he would be easy to spot, I guess. What he's saying, this guy, you'll see him. He'll be carrying a pitcher of water. He won't be carrying a bunch of pitchers of water, and everybody else around him will be. You'll see him. He's going to be probably the only guy carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. Verse 14. And wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the good man of the house, the master saith, where is the guest chamber where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? Just say that to him. And he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared there. Make ready for us. So it says the room's furnished and prepared. So, interesting. The upper room furnished and prepared there. Make ready for us. So, does that mean it was prepared for the Passover already? Interesting. I never really thought of that. So, how did that come about? Or did they have to prepare the Passover after he got there? And his disciples went out forth and came into the city and found as he had said unto them. And they made ready for the Passover. So I guess they went in and had to do some preparing. And in the evening he cometh with the 12. And as they sat and did eat, Jesus said, verily I say unto you, one of you which eateth with me shall betray me. So, Jesus knew this was coming. I think he'd even mentioned it before. And certainly in other Gospels he had mentioned it before this time, that there would be one that would betray him. And what a terrible thing for that guy, Imagine being the guy that had to betray Jesus, had to be stuck with that lot. I think of all the things, that if there is such a thing as we were predestined by God to be anything, I'm glad that I was not that guy. But I don't know that that's how God is, or if, it's just man's own hearts that take them. If either way, I would not want to have been Judas, and I certainly don't want to be a Judas in this day that would betray my Lord either, for silver or for gold. I'd rather be poor. I'd rather be humble. I'd rather be in the kingdom. Okay, but in verse 17, in the evening he cometh with the 12. And he said, one will betray me. Verse 19. And they began to be sorrowful and to say unto him one by one, is it I? Is it I? Is it I? Could you imagine that scene? Judas is sitting there. He's thinking, yeah, well, I guess he knows. He's not getting up and running out of the room. He's just sitting there with the other group, and they're all calling off, is it I? Is it I? And he answered and said unto them, verse 20, this is the one of the 12 that dippeth with me in the dish. Verse 21, and the Son of Man may indeed goeth, as it is written of him, but woe to that man whom the Son of Man is betrayed. Good were it for him that he had never been born. And man, what a fate. What a fate to be that guy. But, we don't want to be the people that are willing to betray him either. Having a relationship with the Lord is one to the very end. And Judas had been with Jesus for a long time. This is, I don't remember how far along in his ministry, but Jesus had been with Jesus for a significant amount of time. Enough to where he was entrusted with the purse. And so, there must have been a reason that they trust him, such as. And so he's an interesting character, and I feel for him in some ways. I'm glad that we are not put to the test like maybe he was, but he had been with Jesus for a long time, and he had, in the end, betrayed him. And we don't want to be someone who's been a disciple of the Lord and been willing to give that up over the years, or even have been a short time and then give it up because of persecutions. But I do pray that, the Spirit of the Lord will be among us all, and that we can be lifelong lovers of the Lord and be willing to follow him, even if it means walking to the cross with him, and never to be the hand that would betray him or give him up for something less. And so that's a good place to stop here today. We made it into the chapter pretty well. We will be meeting again in the next video, and we'll continue in the passion of the Christ, because this is where Again, this is where the good work of the Lord comes to pass, and we will see men's nature come out, the nature of men, and you'll see the nature of God in these next few chapters. But keep seeking out the truth, ask for silver and gold, and know that by seeking diligently, you will find the things and the treasures that the Lord has to tell you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.